Whole CEO with Lisa G. I'm the best-selling author of The Boss Weight Loss. I'm bringing you the top tips to be unstoppable. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to actually pull up a chair with today's top experts in weight loss, mindset, and business. Learn our top tips to set you up for success so that you can have more energy, be fit and resilient, and feel unstoppable. Welcome to Whole CEO with Lisa G. I'm so excited and honored today. I'm here with Mark DeLuzio, founder CEO of Lean Horizons, former corporate officer, vice president of Danaher Business Systems, deploying on a global basis. He was selected by Danaher to be on the first study mission to Japan, studying under the original developers of the Toyota production system. And he's a global speaker. And I want to talk to you, even though you're CFO and pioneer and all this other stuff, I want to speak to you on a little bit more of a personal basis. After I heard your story, I was so impressed and saddened at the same time that you have had two sons who fought in combat in the Middle East and unfortunately became a Gold Star father in 2010 when your son Stephen, at the age of 25, was killed in action fighting the Taliban in Afghanistan. Stephen was awarded the Bronze Star, the Purple Heart, Army Commendation Medal, Combat Infantry Badge, as well as other decorations for his selfless bravery. So carrying on both of your sons' contribution to our country, I want to hear how you were inspired to help veterans wishing to start a business or needing career advice, and your organization, Brave Business Reviews and Advisors to Veteran Entrepreneurs. So welcome, 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 Mark.
Thanks, Lisa. Thanks for having me. I read it. By the way, my son Stephen, in addition to all those accommodations, the awards and all that, medals, he also got the good conduct, and that's his guys when they came back from Afghanistan. How did that happen? Stephen getting the good conduct medal? I mean, you guys must have been really bad. So it's just a joke. Stephen was a real clown, but a great leader. Unbelievable. They still talk about him. So
I love how you're carrying on your mission. And I know from just the brief conversations we've had, we met on LinkedIn. And I know from our brief conversations that you've had that to be a Gold Star family, it usually tears families apart. So I want you to be able to speak to all the good you're doing for veterans in the world with Brave. And I want to speak to how your family was able to move on after this tragedy of Stephen's death.
Well, part of it is that you don't have a choice. You have to move on, but you can take the dour road and the dark road, or you can say, okay, well, why are we here? And why do you have to die, right? And so let's make good out of that, right? Let's not, it's real easy to be negative. It's really easy to look at the glass half empty, but we got inspired, especially more and more the great thing he did, not only in the service and how many lives he saved, but also what he did out of the service as well. And so we were inspired to say, hey, look, we're gonna try to do good. It was a struggle for us, and it always is family, and it still is. It's not like 10 years later, it's still just as it was back then, and it always will be. But the thing about it, number one, I'm very stubborn, and I told you probably earlier that I'm not going to let the Taliban win, number one. Okay. Number two, I've realized and became very spiritual after Stephen died that God's given me an unbelievable gift. Everything, all my talents and all of my experiences and mistakes, which by the way are very valuable, are gifts from God, right? And so they're on loan to me. And so what do I do with them, right? Well, I started learning the plight of the veterans, Lisa, as they came back, right. The guys, especially the 5th and 4th Stephen, and started seeing all kinds of integration problems that they've had into society. They've had all kinds of problems with getting jobs, whole jobs. Some wanted to start businesses. So Brave again, business reviews and advisors for veteran entrepreneurs, helps veterans start businesses, improve an existing business, or we help them with their careers. Okay, so
That.
that's what I do. I mean, I've got such a great background, and I've made so many mistakes that my job is to,
That's what this is
yeah,
about.
yeah.
It's like, how do you fail forward? And nobody's had to fail forward from such a tragedy as you have. So that's why I really wanted to speak to you. And I really love that you became spiritual and you wanted to be so generous and give, because we all know the plight of the veterans. It's so hard for them to reintegrate into society because of the post-traumatic stress disorder. So I admire so much your organization, Brave, and what you are doing. So tell us how you help these people and what their success levels are.
Yeah, it's been very good so far. Men and women, by the way, who come out. And by the way, I will also offer this to first responders, police, fire, people like that too, because to me, they're also heroes, right?
Of course,
And
they're
anyway,
so grateful for everybody that serves our country.
right. When you have a job that when you leave in the morning as a police officer and your wife or husband doesn't know you're coming back that night, that's a big deal.
And
So,
emergency workers too in hospitals lately.
well, that's even more accentuated now, right? Because of the COVID and all that. Yeah, exactly. So I guess I've got these great talents. Again, I've had the lucky experience of being in the right place sometimes to learn all this stuff. And so what we do, to answer your question, is we actually create strategic plans, business plans. We analyze petition. I ask a lot of dumb questions like, why should I go to you if you want to be an electrician? What's so special about you? And I'll say it that way.
That's not a
You got
dumb
to tell them.
question, though. They got to sell
Yeah,
themselves.
exactly. But they've got to answer that question because they're gonna be asked that by a client,
Of
and
course.
you have to have a good answer, right? And the other is, we look at market, we look at the viability, try to help them with marketing, get loans, all kinds of things that you would imagine that a business has to do. We help them with, and so that's one thing. Now on the career side, we help veterans. I have a team of people on my right help, and on the career side, we help them get jobs. Now veterans will call up and say, "I need my resume." Well, that's the wrong question, right? Because
Wait, I'm sorry. Say that again. You're breaking up a little.
oh, geez, I'm breaking up again. Yeah, I said that's the wrong question because um, uh,
The
we
resume
have
is the problem.
right. We're 10 steps. So step 6 is write the resume. Okay, but how we look at so my philosophy on career, it's a 4-step process. The first thing you need to do, I ask them, is regardless of your background, what is your passion? Okay,
What is
what
your
are you
passion?
passionate about? What
Yeah.
is your
So they
passion?
have to find their passion before they're writing their resume and find their story. Like you
Yeah,
guys
and
have a story. I love the story that you and your wife have of starting a business together after such grief and finding some good that you want to do in the world from your pain. I love that. So people need to find the story from their pain, right?
yeah, and after they really, think about what their passion is, now the question is, can I match it up to a vocation, right? And if I can, that's great. Next, the third part of the process is, can that vocation generate enough income and financial security to be able to live the life I need to live, whether or not you have kids in college or if you have whatever, right? And then the last, okay, once all those 3 boxes are checked, and they're never checked 100%, but let's say you got a situation, now you have to say to yourself, okay, this vocation reconcile with my family. In other words, if I love to teach, so I find I'm going to be a consultant. Boy, I love that. Okay, I love to help others, and it pays a lot of money. But then I come home and I tell my wife, I'm going to be 90% of the time. Well, that's not going to work. So you have to have the 4 boxes sort of checked: passion, vocation, financial security, and family. And if you could do that, then you will not. And I wrote a paper on this, by the way, that I send you. It's called "Never Work Again," because if you got all that, you will never feel like you're working. Okay.
So repeat the 4 things. It's passion, vocation, financial
Find your
security,
passion,
family.
passion, then match that vocation that allows you to exercise that passion, and then make sure the financial numbers are there for you. And it doesn't mean you have to make $1 million. It just means that you've got to make enough money to be able to support, how you want to live. And then how does that all reconcile with your family life, your kids, your family, your wife, your husband? And once you get all that checked, you will not feel like you're working. Okay.
I love that. So once you
Yeah.
find your passion, your vocation, and it checks all the boxes and it works in your family, then you'll never feel like you're working a day in your life because you're working on your passion.
Yeah. And I'll tell you the other thing, Lisa, is a lot of the veterans come back and they have, hey, I got trained to shoot a gun. That's not applicable in corporate America. By the way, there are some few people I wanted to shoot at times, but I didn't.
I admire your restraint there, Mark.
But anyway, but I said, wait a minute now. What about, see, they only focus on many of them focus only on the tangible stuff that they did, not the intangible. Like, for example, if you're in the military, you've learned discipline, you've learned leadership, you've learned problem solving, okay, project management. And I even gave the example, I say, okay, my son, for example, who has a podcast, and he talks about veterans. I'll let you know about that in a minute.
Awesome. Please.
He said, if your commanding officer asks you to walk a guy pee in a cup for a drug test, you might say that's no big deal, right? Well, guess what? The guy that's taking that drug test is going to be operating a multi-million-dollar piece of equipment that could kill thousands. Okay. So it's kind of a big deal that he put his faith in you to make sure that was a legit drug test. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So you have to think about things like that, right? And the whole ability to problem solve and lead and all that. And so and be spontaneous, especially if you're in combat. Every plan that you put into place on every mission is wrong that you start it. So you have to be able to adjust and have countermeasures and all that. So all these skills they don't think about, right? And that's what I try to bring to the table. And then the next thing is, we have to demilitarize your resume, because what I call TLAs, 3-letter acronyms, which, they have so much jargon in the military that it becomes so natural that when they talk to others who weren't military, you're like, you just talked to me in Swahili. What are you talking about?
Translated into English.
I went to the FOB and I went to the JRD and I went to, so what are you saying? So they have to we do a really good job, Lisa, helping our men and women put the uniform on. This country does an awful job helping them take it off.
That's where you come in. I love what you're doing. And I think if any smart CEOs are listening, that they would want to hire someone who is a disciplined person. Like they always like athletes, you're coming out of the military, you're disciplined, you're a leader. Everyone wants a leader that can think outside the box. And I love the way when they can't go according to plan, because life doesn't work lately, from anything that I've seen in my entire life, according to plans. That's like God's joke, isn't it? Man plans and God laughs.
Yeah, well, it's true. The only thing you probably rely on is that you're going to get taxed and that you're going to die. But other than that,
I feel your guys and girls and women have so much to offer in the corporate world and all that experience. And I love the way you can help put that in boxes for them so they can see where they fit in. And how do you help them? I know this is a short interview, so I would just like to finish with a couple of things here. How do you help them deal with the PTSD? Do you have any special advice for them on that? Well, we've all been traumatized lately, and that's why I want to talk to you. We've all been so much.
Yeah, I mean, PTSD happens more than just to the military, but the statistics are such that we lose 22 to suicide every day.
That's so sad. I've heard about that.
Yeah. Well, I don't do therapy like that. I don't do PTSD counseling, but one of the things I am working on, there's an actress and famous supermodel from the past, Jennifer O'Neill. She has a equine therapy ranch out in Nashville where she does equine therapy for veterans with PTSD. Now it's called Hope and Healing at Hillenbrand. And her fame to claim was that she was the cover girl model for 30 years. And then Christy Brinkley took over for her. And at one time, she was lauded the most beautiful woman in the world. And she was also did 40 movies
Wow.
with like John Wayne and Robert Duvall, and
Wow.
her most famous movie was The Summer of '42,
I
which
love
I
that.
would
And where is her equine ranch?
Nashville.
Nashville. I
Yeah.
love that.
No, she wrote a script, Lisa, and wants to make a movie and wants to dedicate it to my son. But her and I hooked up, and she would be the executive producer for the movie.
How
So
exciting. I'll watch that. You'll have to send a link over to me.
the movie hasn't been made yet, but we are looking for actors like Morgan Freeman and Danny Glover and Nicole Kidman, and we're looking at that cat. We already have a director out of Hollywood. We have a
Wow.
producer out of Hollywood and a music director, and so now we're looking for funding, and we're looking to get this thing moving. Now, COVID kind of threw a big wrench into the deal, so that
Movies,
delayed
yeah,
us,
absolutely.
delayed us a year. But she asked me to be this executive producer, and my comment to her was, Jen, this is not the first time I've taken a job that I know nothing about, so I'll do it.
So equine therapy is just one of the ways that people can have a modality to be able to get away from the trauma and be able to function.
Yeah, horses are very, very intuitive, and what they think about when you first approach them is that you're going to kill them, and they won't come to you unless they trust you, and they could sense. So the whole idea is, like, if you have an upset day and you go home and your family senses that when the minute you walk in the door, they can see it, they can feel it, even if you say nothing. And horses are that way, that they can sense that in individuals. So the whole idea in equine therapy is that to understand the you're giving off to your family and loved ones with your PSD, and try to kind of rein that back in a little, forgive the pun, rein that back in a little, so that you're not giving those vibes off and creating that
negative energy, because people like
Right.
everything is energy. It's like if you walk in and you're smiling and your shoulders are back, then you're more likely to be able to attract the kind of job opportunities and social opportunities than if you're walking around like with shoulders down, staring at the ground. So I think anything that can help with people's energy levels, I love that. And where can
Yeah.
people find this equine therapy ranch in Nashville? What is it called?
They can go to, it's called In Healing at Hillenbrand, HILLENLADE. And I'm not exactly the website on the top of my tongue here. Wrong website. If you type that in, you'll get to her thing.
I'll link it in here. So in
Okay, yeah, I'll get it to you.
And then Brave, people can find it BRAVE.
Yeah, website is the number 4, the brave, forthebrave.org, with the 4 being the number 4.
And I want to hear also where people can find your son's podcast and find you, because I know you and I met on LinkedIn.
Yeah, you might even want to talk to Scott, because he has this podcast called driveonpodcast.com, and he interviews veterans and anybody associated with helping veterans get back in. And Lisa, if you go to these this website, and maybe I could tell you a real quick story, but there are chock full of people who do what you're interested in, as far as overcoming adversity and getting back into the saddle, if you will. And there's one actually that is a very interesting one. I don't know if you know about burn pit cancer in Afghanistan and Iraq, but what they would do is they would dig these big holes in the ground, put all the garbage in it, pour diesel fuel on it, and light it on fire. Well, this smoke ended up starting to kill people with cancer. And long story short, Stephen's best friend, my son that got killed, when he got shot, this guy named Wes Black ran out into enemy fire and tried to save him. And Stephen died in his arms. Okay. So the battle ensued for, like, believe it or not, there were 120 of them and 18 of us, and we still won. Okay, that's how good we are. Why this war's going on for 18 years, 17 years, I don't know why, but anyway, we he came back and was diagnosed with colon cancer, but they misdiagnosed him until 2 years later they found that he really had it. Anyway, he's a poster child for burn pit cancer. He's terminal. But this guy, for example, Lisa, he had 40 rounds of chemo and never missed a day of work as a firefighter.
I
Okay.
love this guy. I absolutely have to speak to him. I have to.
You do. You really do. I'll put
I
you in
love
touch
that
with.
story. I love people that keep going, like you and your wife and your son, and find the good that you can do in the world. And I'm so proud of all the work that you do and that you took time out of your day to speak to
Well,
me.
let's just not forget one thing. What I'm doing is easy, and what they did was hard. And they're the ones that put the uniform on. So never forget that. So.
Well, thank you to your family for your service, and thank you for coming on my podcast. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed meeting you, and I look forward to continuing our dialogue.
Awesome.